Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight is our regular commission meeting. Meeting is being scheduled for Monday, March 7th, 2016 at 8 p.m. at the Commission Chambers, 500 Southwest 109th Avenue. Meeting is starting at 8:04. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Clerk will note all members present, sir.
Please stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lord and dear Father, we ask you tonight, Lord, to bless this commission, to bless our city, and we thank you for your love, your mercy, and your guidance in our lives. Lord, look at our country. Look at every situation that politics, economics, and the rest of the issues in relation to our nation are so concerning at this very moment. We ask you to grant your blessings and guide us, not only here, but at all levels of government, to take decisions to improve and preserve the liberty and the democracy that we enjoy in this great nation. Bless our armed forces, bless their families, and thank you because they are the ones that put their life on the line every day for us to enjoy our liberties. We thank you for this meeting, and we ask your guidance. We ask you to bless all those that are suffering from illnesses, from a loss, those that are in grief, my Lord. Now stay amongst us and don't turn your face away from your children. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Okay, we move to special presentations. Presentation of Employee of the Month Award.
For this month, I would like to name Officer Sergio Cabrera as the Employee of the Month. Sergio Cabrera recently passed away. He passed away Monday of last week. And he never stopped working. When we got the fleet of vehicles, he felt bad. He was diagnosed with cancer, had a very short fight with it. He actually passed away the day before. He was scheduled to start his first cancer treatment, but he never skipped a beat. He never missed one single day because he wanted to make sure that the vehicles that we received from the city of Miami all turned out in the condition that they did. And for that reason, I would like to make Sergio Cabrera Officer of the Month.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Presentation of Officer of the Month Award.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mr. Mayor. In light of the circumstances regarding Sergio Cabrera, who passed, having not known him for many years, but having known how hard he worked for this department and this place during his last days, I also want to extend to him Officer of the Month for this month, and I'll recognize his family accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Reports of officer, boards, and committees. Additions and deletions to the agenda.
To the Chair.
One moment, Mayor. I want to withdraw the item M from the additions to the agenda, please. Item M.
We need to add it before you withdraw it. Just don't add it, because you need to add it before you withdraw it. It hasn't been added yet, so you can't withdraw it.
You're right. It's on the additions.
Yeah.
Okay, so do I have a motion for the additions?
There's no motion. Okay, could
Okay,
I withdraw
think that
mine first?
I had too much coffee today.
I need to move item H.
Okay, hold on. Mayor, you have something to say?
Yes, I'd like to remove staff item C for now.
C?
Item C?
Staff item C.
C?
C is in Charlie.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
Excuse- President,
yes,
I would like to move for now item H.
you want to remove item H?
Remove. Just move it for now. Can I just?
Table it,
move
table it to the
Table
next
it.
meeting?
I need to go over the report. I haven't been able to see it yet.
Okay. Any other additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, after having so, then I withdraw item M from the agenda.
M?
M, like in many.
Okay.
You still need to add, you
And
don't have
then-
to withdraw M, you need to add KL.
We have to
NOB.
add,
Mr.
K,
President?
L,
N,
When you add your items, if on the additions, if there are any items that you don't wish to place on the agenda, then your motion would not include those as you stated.
Okay.
so we have additions, item K, L, M, which I wanted to
So do not include M.
do not include M on the additions to the agenda, N, O, and P. And item K, I want to move it up to the first item to discuss because I know we have a group of ladies and gentlemen that we don't want to hold them for too long here.
May I, Mr. President, sorry.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I am speaking when I start this meeting, not now, no later now.
What is it?
I am speaking to the people,
Oh, you want to speak?
please.
Under petitions, I believe.
My petition, yeah. When, where? The back? No,
You want to do it now?
now,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
okay?
We're still in the additions and deletions. Why don't we close
Well,
this?
everybody remove all the, I remove my item, and you table
You
yours.
need a motion and a second, and then on approval of the commission.
Do we have a motion to approve the addition to the agenda?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, the motion is would be to add items K, L, N, O, and P.
And remove C
Remove
Well,
C
remove
and
M
H.
and H.
An H.
and H.
C, M, and H.
Do I have a motion? Moved by Commissioner Berguignan, second by Commissioner Yanni. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Additions to the agenda pass with the amendments or removals. Okay, we come to item 9, petitions, communications, and remonstrances, and Commissioner Duaso have asked for the floor and step down to the podium to address the audience and the commission. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Please, Miss Johnny or Mr. Dio, any?
Translate,
I
okay.
explain later for white page translation, I explain that. Okay.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Vengo aquí esta noche, yo me quiero disculpar.
I come here tonight to apologize.
Yo no soy el de las otras noches.
I am not the person that was here last Friday on the special commission meeting.
Yo llevo 35 años trabajando en esta ciudad.
I've been working for the city for the last 35 years.
Mi pueblo me ha elegido 24 años.
My citizens have elected me for the last 24 years
Por ser siempre muy correcto, muy servicial de mi pueblo.
for serving and being always proper and correct before my people.
Yo quiero que aquellas personas que me llamaron a mí preocupadas por mi salud, muchas en la ciudad, personas mayores,
I want that those persons that have called me, mostly adults and seniors asking for my health,
por eso quiero el translation para que ellos sepan y me entiendan en español. Sí, estoy yendo a médico, yo tengo problemas en el corazón, no lo niego, tengo 2 médicos del corazón, no lo niego, pero tengo a mi Dios.
it is known for everyone that I have to go to the doctor for heart problems, but I'm in the Lord's hands.
Tengo que pedirle perdón a Dios.
I have to ask forgiveness to the Lord.
Me convertí en el hombre viejo, no el hombre nuevo.
I behave like the old man, not the new man that I am now.
En el año 85 yo recibí a Cristo después que, sobre mayo, después que a mi hijo me lo asaltaron, me dejaron ciego, recibí a Cristo como mi Salvador en la primera iglesia cristiana de Huechete con Freddy Pérez.
In 1983, I received my Lord Jesus Christ, and I became a newborn Christian in Westchester Baptist Church before Pastor Freddy Pérez.
Luego más tarde lo hice en mi iglesia bautista aquí, Félix Valdivia.
Later on, I reconfirmed my conversion in this City of Sweetwater Baptist Church with Pastor Felix Valdivia.
Tuve la gloria de ir con mi hijo a Israel y
Ah.
bautizarme en el Jordán, en lo máximo.
I had the opportunity to visit Israel with my son and be baptized in the Jordan River.
Por lo tanto, yo debo ser un hombre nuevo, no un hombre viejo. No soy perfecto, porque nadie lo es.
And in fact, I should be a new man, not the man I used to be before I met my Lord.
Por eso le pido perdón a Dios, porque
That's-
pequé.
That's the reason I ask forgiveness to the Lord, because I have sinned.
Y vuelvo a repetir, no soy perfecto.
And I repeat, I am not perfect.
Yo quiero que el doctor Cuadra
I want
disculparme porque no explicó claramente que ese meeting no era para hablarlo.
I want to apologize to Mr. Cuadra because he explained very clearly that that meeting was not to make those kind of statements.
Le pido disculpas a nuestros directores de finanzas, a Trueba y al señor Mariano.
I apologize to Mr. Trevas and Mr. Mariano.
Siempre han sido unos caballeros los dos con la ciudad y conmigo.
They have been always very kind with the city and with myself.
Hay una cosa muy importante para mí. Ustedes, perdónenme, pero no me cojan lástima. No, por favor, síganme tratando con el cariño y el amor que ustedes me tratan. En el tiempo que ahora me dio un catarro, muchos de ustedes, y sobre todo Idania me llamaba, te llevo una sopa, y llamándome siempre usted para saber de mí. Pero por favor, nosotros estamos con Dios y el que está con Dios todo lo tiene. Contra sus hijos nada. Romanos capítulo 8.
I want to apologize to all of you, but I don't want you to feel pity of me, because I want to express my gratitude, because when I've been feeling bad with a cold or any other reason, you have called me and find out if I need any food or I need any kind of attention in particular. So I'm very grateful that we are all here under God.
No tengo miedo porque si mañana Dios me llama, voy feliz con mi señora.
I am not afraid, because if the good Lord calls me tomorrow, I'll be with my wife in heavens.
Señor abogado, asesor de nuestro alcalde, yo lo quisiera ver a usted en un bufete de abogados. Usted sabe mucho. Usted es un hombre muy inteligente, ha aprendido mucho aquí. Y yo se lo dije esta mañana. Ahí es donde yo lo quisiera verlo a usted. Pido por-
Mr. Ventura, the chief of staff or our mayor, I would like to see you in a big
No,
law firm or buffet of attorneys, because you are very wise and you have learned a lot in our city through the years, and I would like to see you there.
Alcalde Orlando López, yo no tengo nada contra usted. Usted es nuestro alcalde. Estoy contra los procedimientos.
Mayor Lopez, I have nothing against you personally, but I against certain procedures that you are applying during your government.
Yo le pido a usted que haga un acto de contrición y al menos nos dé un pequeño derecho a tener una secretaria.
I ask you to make an act of kindness and allow us to have a secretary like you used to have.
Aide Hernández llevaba 10 años trabajando en la ciudad.
Aide Hernandez used to be working for the last 10 years for the city.
En la ciudad no existe, digo, en el condado no existe una ciudad que los comisionados no tengan secretaria. Y nos vemos muchas veces atados porque la necesitamos. Yo sé que él va a recapacitar eso y mañana vamos a tener buena respuesta de usted. Muchas gracias.
There is no city within the Miami-Dade County that the commissioner doesn't have, or the commission doesn't have a secretary, and we need someone because this contributes sometimes to some handicaps at the commission's office. And tomorrow I will expect to have some kind of positive response on this issue. Gracias, comisionado. I want to express my feelings about what Commissioner Duaso have done. He has been man enough to go before the audience and the mayor and the commission to express his apologies for the way that he behaved last week, and he realized that his frustrations before certain issues in the city brought back the old man that he used to be, but he is being honest and humble enough to express that, and we recognize that, and we also recognize your leadership, and we recognize the years of sacrifice for our city. Y lo quiero expresar también en español, que nuestro comisionado Duaso ha tenido la gallardía y la nobleza de ponerse delante de el público y de la comisión y del alcalde para expresar sus disculpas por el comportamiento que quizás fue un poco rudo la semana pasada, pero él como hombre lo ha reconocido y nosotros somos capaces y estamos conscientes de la dedicación y el amor que le ha dedicado a esta comunidad por muchos años, y que en realidad él no hubiera querido haber reaccionado así. Así que no hay más nada que hablar, comisionado. Esto
Muchas gracias, hermano.
lo reconocemos enormemente y vamos a proseguir con con nuestra reunión de la comisión. Muchas gracias. I would like to move, as I say, item K.
No, you're still
We
not.
we have still,
Petitions, we have petitions.
yes, I'm sorry. On the consent agenda, no, I'm sorry. A, request of Mr. Francesco Monetti to address the city commission. Mr. Monetti?
I'm not worried.
No.
Appointing. Oh.
I approach you for you, please, because this is the show what I try to say if you want. This panel approved fine without only by setting affidavit, without the fund the folder in the archive of the city. I go to the city and make a copy. You have the copy in back. First one, the first fine is for reoccupancy. I make a reoccupancy in 2013. What I mean, I don't need the fine for somebody we did. The second one, Mr. You have a reoccupancy certificate dated 2013. Mr. Lanza, when they make the inspection, is not funded. The problem with the window, because the window have the application for the whole dog. I have a copy.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
This one. When I found the deformation, I fix it, I remove the carport and the slab. The slab is part of the demolition. The old owner make. They close this permit, but then remove the 3 foot the slab. You last time tell what is the cost, I pay the cost. I'm ready because I'm fix it. I want to finish this, I don't want to bring this to the court, and I don't want no more problem. I want to finish this situation, pay the fine, reasonable fine for contribution to the city, but not the amount they told me, $700,000 for something is not true. And most of the requirement is not make 100% by the city. Okay, my intention is coming here without a lawyer, without anything, because I want to make a settlement and close the case.
Okay.
If you have for me, tell me how much is this amount, make the invoice, make the check, and remove the lien from my property.
Mr. Lanza, can you please come to the podium?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor,
We would
Commissioners.
like to entertain also some of the issues that have been spoken here.
I think the case is self-explanatory. It's been an ongoing condition with a running violation. I think I was here before you a couple commissions ago. I think the question at hand is, in terms of compliance, they have complied. I think code enforcement has confirmed that, and we have confirmed that.
So, excuse me, Carlos, they have brought everything up to compliance?
Yes, from my understanding, everything's been brought up into compliance. And I think what the gentleman is here before you is to try to mitigate the fines. I think the fines are pretty substantial, but I don't know, at least I don't have any authority in that, and I think the ordinance stands for itself.
Mr. Attorney?
Mr. President, basically, just to give you just a little bit more background, some time ago, I believe the administration brought an item asking for authority of this commission to initiate foreclosure proceedings based on the accumulated fines, I believe on 2 violations. At that time, the commission approved that. Subsequent to that, Mr. Moretti came before this body and talked about some issues that relative to the accumulation of those fines and the underlying violations. The commission at that point directed me to not to continue or temporarily stay the foreclosure proceedings while he brought those conditions under compliance, which I believe now that he has. At this point, I believe that the only options available is go through the fine mitigation process that this commission approved a couple of meetings ago, which will result in a significant reduction of the fines. Outside of that, this commission is free to settle matters, okay? But I would suggest that perhaps the fine mitigation process be initiated by Mr. Monetti, thus resulting in a reduction. What happens from there is he can either pay that amount once he goes through all the way to the mayor. Other than that, the commission could entertain an alternate settlement. What I would urge you to, at a minimum, allow Mr. Monetti to initiate the fine mitigation process, since he did bring the conditions in violation into compliance.
Okay.
It's at the discretion of the commission, however.
So, Mr. Mayor, have you met with Mr. Monetti in relation to what kind of...
Manetti, as Cuadra was saying, has not started the mitigation process.
So, Mr. Monetti, at this very moment, since you have brought to compliance all your issues, you should start your mitigation process.
What is the step?
The
Coming
mitigation process
I am here for the medication
You,
state.
you don't do that here. You go to the building department and you pick up the application for the mitigation process, and with that
Okay, but
documentation.
I come here, I have the form, they give me the form, but the amount they talk to me is enormous.
And that form is to mitigate the fine. Yet, coming to the commission
Because
here
they-
is
they
not
have a
starting the
three fine,
process.
we know about three violation. We have only one violation. Why they charge me for reoccupancy certificate when I have, you have a copy there with in 2013 I make a reoccupation certificate, but said initial certificate, when I buy the house, I know exactly what is the violation. And in fact, I have the program to convert the duplex, and I spent 1 year back and forth with Miami-Dade water department for the septic tank. And this
Yeah,
is the motive I delayed.
Yes, Mr. Monetti, excuse me. This needs a process of mitigation. Let's say that they were charging you how much, $70,000 or 170? I don't recall.
They charge me for three fine, but
What was the total?
77.
$77,000,
Yeah.
okay? Now, you have to fill out that form and try to negotiate that amount with the administration so that you, because, you reach a settlement and you bring it then before, the mayor will bring it before the commission, and then we'll,
Okay, Jose, I have the form, I fill out the form and make my offer. This is what you say?
absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, correct me if I'm mistaken. Through the mayor, you bring it to the
yes,
mayor.
To the mayor, yes.
Mr. Monetti, once you fill out that form, the code then basically spells out a process, and I believe that process also is an administrative rule. It spells out what needs to happen. The building department then processes the form, the application that you
yes,
submit.
yeah, okay, I bring it to them, okay.
And at the end, there are different amounts, there are different percentages that could be of reduction.
Right.
You will know that once you go
But
through the
we have
process.
two violation what not exist. So this is the problem. We have one, the slab, the cement, and the carport, yes.
Mr. Monetti, you fill out the form, you meet with the mayor, and then you complete the process. And then the mayor will bring it before the commission, and we will decide what is fair and reasonable for the city and for you.
Okay.
All right?
This is the motive I come here, because we have three violation, two violation is not exist. This creates.
But no matter how much things you're gonna tell us now, that's not gonna solve the problem. You have to follow the procedure.
Okay.
All right?
Tomorrow I send the paper
To the mayor.
okay.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Monetti.
Bye-bye.
Okay, let's see if I don't jump anything now. We have two other,
Two other people wishing to address the city commission.
okay, we want to have Angelica Gonzalez come to the podium, please. State your name and address for the records.
Yes, good evening. My name is Angelica Gonzalez. I live at 100 Southwest 110 Avenue, at apartment 127. I am the president of the PTA at Sweetwater Elementary School.
Congratulations, thank you.
I came to here to speak on behalf of the parents of the Sweetwater Elementary School, and I, Ryan here, Mr. Mayor and Commissioner, to encourage the Sweetwater Commissioner to support the resolution for the expansion of the Florida International University.
Absolutely, we appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for showing your leadership and your concerns about education.
Okay, thank you.
We need fervent
Yeah.
parents that be part of the PTS in every other school. So thank you very much,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Gonzalez. And we have Carlos Garcia.
How are you? Carlos Garcia.
Good evening.
10322 Southwest 5th Street. I'm coming here with a bunch of my friends over here that are residents of Sweetwater, and the topic that we're bringing up is the Roncelli racquetball lights. This is something that's been
An ongoing issue, I know.
ongoing since March of last year. I've sent emails, multiple emails, to discuss this topic, and it's been not addressed, and it's basically now in this situation where. we're
Mr.
talking about it right
Garcia,
now.
I have replied to you and I have instructed
It was you to
to
speak to
go
Orlando.
to the right person.
Okay.
Which is the mayor, is the person in charge of administration right now.
So if you've gone
No.
to Roncelli Park,
Through the chair, if I may, and I'm going to be able to solve all these issues for you. We have actually gotten quotes already for it, and we've isolated, we've found monies to be able to repair the lights on the racquetball courts.
yeah,
The item will actually, it missed the deadline to make it on this commission meeting by a day or so. It'll be
Yeah.
on the next commission meeting, the lights for the racquetball court.
okay. Well, I would encourage all of you to go visit the racquetball courts and the park. And you'll notice that the baseball fields, you can see every grain of sand on the floor. It's basically way brighter than this. Whereas the racquetball court, and if you played racquetball, you know that the sport is a very fast sport. It's a blue ball. The wall is actually dark colored when it should be white. So just imagine how hard it is to see. If you were to dim the lights in here and by 75%, that's pretty much what you're seeing on these racquetball courts. And then also, two of the lights are pointing towards the basketball courts. It's amazing that we're in Sweetwater, and Roncelli Park has been a park for a very long time. I've been a resident here for over 20 years. And the basketball courts, which is one of the few sports that gets these kids off the streets, happens to be no nets, no lights, and I'm just wondering how this is going to get fixed. Pardon my French.
Yes, Commissioner Yanni.
I was there on Friday, but probably you weren't there because
Yeah.
I was asking for Carlos,
Yeah.
and he happens to be there. Another guy says, "Oh, I'm Carlos." And when I say, "Well, Commissioner Yanni, I came to see the issue with the lights."
Yeah.
But I missed you somehow because you weren't there.
Nobody-
It was around 7 o'clock.
Yeah, nobody told me to go on a specific day.
I saw the email on, they expressed the issue, so I went to see it at nighttime, how bad it was.
Yeah.
And I can see that you have 3 poles, and one of them has only one light.
Yeah.
And basically, they are facing on the top, and then it gives a shadow.
Exactly.
On the bottom.
Exactly.
So,
And it's not just the racquetball, it's the park in general, because if you take into consideration that the baseball fields are impeccable, frankly, I've gone to every park in South Florida. My kids played all types of sports, and baseball was one of them. And the most amazing thing is, you take a look at Sweetwater's baseball lights, and there's not a single place in Miami you would find better lights, not even Miami Park, not Tropical Park. But when you look at the racquetball courts, which has been, many years ago, my friends over there, Omar's one of the guys there, we used to play here all the time at Roncelli Park, and the lights were impeccable. And, besides that, there was also, I don't think there was ever an issue where the basketball courts ever had lights, but the reality is, racquetball is not as popular as basketball. So I would hope that the commission and Mayor Orlando Lopez, or Diaz, pardon me.
Lopez.
Oh, Lopez. Okay, I got confused with this guy. Sorry. I would hope that you guys take into consideration the entire park, not just the racquetball lights, and that you really start spending money in the city, and that's one of the ways you can give back to the people of Sweetwater. It's bad enough that we get caught with these red light cameras. I got a red light camera ticket for just stopping at a light, and I didn't do a complete stop, and I found out about that wonderful rule where it's like a rolling red, and I got snagged with a red light camera ticket. I think that Dolphin Mall is part of Sweetwater.
yes.
Yeah, right. So I would figure that there's plenty of money in Sweetwater. So I would really hope that the next time we get to discuss this, that you'll bring it up to the top. That's
Thank
all.
you, sir.
To explain to you what I was,
Commissioner Bergin.
Mayor, we fixed them before, the ones over here by this racquetball and the basketball, and I think something happened, somebody hit it with a ball or something because it was a smaller light. When you look at that, is there any way to see about, at least I know the basketball side, behind the racquetball courts on Carlo Park?
yeah, not Carlo, we're talking about Ronzelli now. At
Right,
least
but-
Ronzelli, I believe that there's 2 lights now.
can speak then.
And what Alan's gonna do is install 4 LED lights, which will be sufficient lighting. I also told him to do it is to repaint the racquetball court to a lighter colored green so that it's easier, you can have easier visibility on the looking at the ball and everything. So it's going to, just to try to help everything. The biggest problem really was trying to isolate funding because the park has very little amount of monies isolated toward this thing. Every year we apply for CDBG funds, which are for the most part given out with successful bidding, so it gives us monies to put new infrastructure into the park. But other than that, you're more than glad I can give you copies of the budget and everything. When people make those erroneous statements and say Dolphin Mall is part of the city, the city has a lot of money. No, we don't. We have to try to counter pennies and stretch it as far as possible to make all these things happen. But we are making it for you.
Well, let me just say something that those LED lights that you're talking about, Jose, I can't pronounce your last name. Let me try it.
Bird.
Bergin.
Those lights that were put in there last year, so Sweetwater did make an attempt to actually improve the park and improve the lighting for the racquetball courts. But when those lights were put in, there were LED lights that must not have been appropriate for racquetball because in the first day, Omar, when we went out there, we walked out, it was like 75% less lighting than you have here. If I were to turn off the lights, that's basically pretty much what you're seeing over there.
Right.
And then shortly thereafter, the lights started to fail. So it's a matter of not getting the right equipment
If I
or
can,
a
Chair.
product.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
What's happened here is, just like you stated, there's certain times throughout the years, what's happened is, well, we worked on the lights 20 years ago in the baseball field. And then they started deteriorating and we worked on the racquetball courts, we painted them, the tennis courts. We got a bunch of nets. I remember getting them. We got a bunch of nets, we got a bunch of baskets, we got a bunch of stuff. So it's a vicious circle that goes around. And depending on how funding comes in, we do different areas.
Yeah.
But as you said, I think that we're getting to the point that the city's gonna be able to be affording to do multiple projects at a time, like the mayor said.
Yeah.
So that's why you see that, wow, this side's good and this side's bad, because it's just
Yeah.
gone around over time.
Yeah.
Just like
Sometimes
the tennis
we,
courts, a couple years ago, it was the tennis courts.
Yeah.
So we went around doing different things as we can. Or when they were the worst, is the ones we fixed first.
No, I'm just.
But it's time, it's
I
time.
mean, I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of the citizens of Sweetwater.
Right.
There's not that many things that, besides the roads and I remember when the big flood happened in Sweetwater, where the water was up to this high, and then that was fixed, the sewer system. But when you take into account what has been done for the parks over the years, you're right. There has been efforts to improve the parks, but this has been neglected down to the point where there was one single racquetball light that was working, and that's last year is when they attempted to fix that. But that one single light, which was not LED, was better than 4 LED lights. It was amazing. I mean, I know it was wasting a lot more electricity, but it was what was replacing it was not working.
thank you, sir.
Okay.
We move to, no, Garcia. Ahead, que habló, que acaba de hablar ahead. Item number 12,
10.
item 10, consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Barreto, second by Commissioner Duaz. All in favor say aye. Aye. Consent agenda passed unanimously. Staff items, item 11, staff items. I want to bring up item K from the additions so that they present their case. and it reads as a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Sweetwater, Florida, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Rosado and Associates, authorizing the expenditure of funds, authorizing the mayor to seek reimbursement of cost recovery, and providing an effective date. Mayor?
As I said in previous meetings, the services of a planner are direly needed in the city, and more so because Melissa Tapanis represents the owners of the Bowsbury property, and there are certain planning measures that need to be taken on that property. After 2 attempts to get a planner hired, Melissa Tapanis approached me and said that if we would hire the services of another planner, they would be willing to pay 50% of the services. The firm of Rosado and Associates has provided an estimate for $20,000 for the planning services for that property alone, of which, if approved, Bowsbury will agree to reimburse the city for 50% of the services, which is $10,000.
Second. Okay, there is a motion by Commissioner Maronio and a second by Commissioner Duazo and Borguignan. Roll call, Madam Clerk, just in case.
Commissioner Maronio,
Yes?
Commissioner Suarez,
Before I vote, I want to remind the audience that wasn't here last meeting that we had the opportunity to approve planning services last meeting, but I voted for the approval of that planning services. It could have saved the city this $10,000 that we have to spend now because we don't have a planning service. So even though I hate to waste those $10,000, I have to say yes, because we need that planning service badly.
Commissioner Duazo,
Yes.
Commissioner Bergnan,
Yes.
Commissioner Barreto,
Yes.
Commissioner Yanyo,
Yes.
President Diaz.
Yes. Item K passed unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Rosado and Associate. Thank you very much.
Barbarita, tu zapata, por venir.
Okay, we go back to staff items and we go to item A, opening and consideration of sealed bids for ITV number 16-1 and ITV number 16-2.
Mr. President,
Yes,
may I?
yes, Commissioner
Okay.
Barreto.
I'm very happy with this result, but I have a question to the city attorney. When we have a sale bid, who's supposed to open those envelopes?
That is announced in the bid package when it goes out, the time and place. And I believe that in this particular case, that happened. Correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Clerk, but they were open here earlier today as provided in the bid package here in Chambers.
No, in her office.
I'm sorry, in the clerk's office.
Right in my calendar.
And I think there were some of the people that provided bids where it's announced publicly and it's open publicly.
At least
Not
three of
supposed to
the
be
four
open.
bidders were there.
It was listed in the bid. I
It w-
checked it
and then-
because I thought we were going to be opening them tonight as well.
That's what I was expecting.
To open here?
But the bid, to the best of my recollection, the bid package did state that it was going to be, I believe, 2 p.m.
3:15.
No,
That it was going to
3:15.
be
The
in the
opening
clerk's
was
office
3:15.
in
three.
the afternoon.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, and that's when it was done.
Mayor, the highest bid for the lot next to the maintenance is 3.3.
Well, they have to be read into the record first.
They have to.
Be read into the record.
The bid result.
You have to read the amounts.
Okay.
Right here.
We have to read all the bids.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the bids for the ITV 16-1 is, we have 4 vendors. Vendor number 1, Rams Group, offers $2,842,000. Bid number 2 is Grand Metro LLC, $2,126,000. Offer number 3 is R&M Properties, $2,100,000. And number 4, Dolph, is that Dolph 17? 17 LLC, $3,326,000. On ITV 16-2 land, on the second page, offer number 1, Daniel Rascal, $157,200. And number 2, Antonio Lanza, $85,000.
Through the chair, it doesn't really apply, but the city has historically always solicited the minimum of 3 bids on ITV number 2. What I'm asking the commission to waive the 3 bid minimum requirement, since we have received 1 bid which exceeded the minimum reserve that was set by the commission of $150,000.
Do I have a motion?
Wait.
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, through the chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
If we waive it and the 157 is not certified or approved or whatever, that it's not valid in any way, it falls to the next one?
No,
We can redo it again?
correct.
Yes.
Okay.
I make a motion to,
To waive the 3 bid?
yes.
There is a motion by
Second.
Commissioner Barreto to waive the 3 bids process for the ITV 16-2 piece of land. And there is a second by Commissioner Maronio and Bergignan. All in favor say aye. Aye. The 3 bid process is being waived.
And I make a motion to approve Dolphin 17 LLC for 3
No, no.
million. Why not?
Now it's not the moment. They have to certify their,
Or they have to be certified?
yeah.
Right now, we have all the bids. Tomorrow, we will sit down and we will do due diligence on this. And if if it looks like Dolph 17 is a responsible bidder, as well as Daniel Caskell, then resolutions will be drafted, and we've agreed to Tuesday night. And then we will be called for a special meeting for Tuesday night, where the resolutions then will authorize the sale of the 2 properties by
Do we
different
need a motion
resolutions.
for that?
No, that'll be subsequently, tomorrow when we meet, we will discuss this, and then the commission will be notified of the meeting.
Through the chair,
Go ahead, Commissioner Suarez.
Mayor Lopez, ITV 1601.
Yes, sir.
That's the large piece of land.
Correct, the
in
5
new-
parcels.
In the new section of
Correct.
Sweetwater. And dash 02, is that the?
A small parcel of land, 112th Avenue and Southwest 3rd Street.
On that corner?
Correct.
Okay, good, thank you.
Mr. President,
Go ahead, Commissioner Barreto.
just in case Dolphin doesn't have whatever we need, then we go to the Rams group, to the higher,
Correct.
we don't need to make any motion tonight?
No.
Okay.
Well,
To
wait,
the, to the following, a higher bidder?
excuse
to the
me.
next
I just asked that question for the other one and you told me no, we redo it.
The second one had a minimum reserve of $150,000. The $85,000 doesn't meet the minimum reserve that the commission had set.
They have 4.
So if it meets the reserve, then you have to take it, is what you're telling me.
Of the second one. The second one, we had set a reserve of $150,000 as the ceiling price.
Okay.
It already exceeds it by $157,200.
Oh, I get
The
it. So it'd be lower.
$85,000
I thought
doesn't,
it was
it
the
falls
other
below.
product.
No, the
Okay.
$85,000 falls below the threshold.
Okay, I get it, thank you.
All right.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Just for the record, for the clerk to note that the vote on your motion waiving the 3 bid requirement was unanimous, just for the.
Yes, it was unanimous. Okay, things are looking good.
Yes,
Thanks God.
my God, so happy. Really. Financial urgency.
Okay, we move on the staff items to item B.
To the chair.
Yes,
I'd like to defer this item at this moment.
okay. Then item C was removed as well. We move to items D. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Surfritos, Florida, authorizing the mayor to execute grant award agreement relating to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement 2016 Justice Assistance Grant Direct, authorizing the mayor to receive and expend funds and providing an effective date.
Move. Second.
Moved by Commissioner Barreto, second by Commissioner Maronio. All in favor say aye. Aye. Item D pass unanimously. Item E, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Surfritos, Florida, authorizing the mayor to execute grant award agreement relating to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement 2016 Justice Assistance Grant Countywide, authorizing the mayor to receive and expend funds and provided an effective date. Moved by Commissioner Maronio. This is about the same type of
Second.
Yeah, it's
grant.
It's a JAG grant again.
Second by Commissioner Barreto.
Through the
All in
chair.
favor say, before we vote, Commissioner Suarez.
Yeah, Mayor Lopez, the first grant is for 62 vests, and the second that we're considering is 48. The total is 110 vests. Do we have 110 officers in our police department?
This is actually to receive the money for the vest.
What you're trying to say is to receive the money but not to buy them?
Well, you have to give a vest to each police officer. By the time that you add a full-time, part-time, and sworn reserves, you add up to, you're beyond the 100.
Over 100?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item E pass unanimously, 7-0. Item F. Discussion reference to Building and Zoning Department, Commissioner Yanio.
Yes, I want to bring this over to the commission. I was advised that we had a situation at the Building and Zoning Department. The employees are not getting paid, and I would like to call the Director Lances so he can explain to us what's going on, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I want to read something that I have prepared. If you bear with me a little bit before I can get into an explanation. For the past 15 years, I've served the city in the capacity of both a salaried W-2 employee and a 1099 consultant with my company, CL Contractors Corp. Within these years, I have served the city with integrity, loyalty, and professionalism. In addition, I have maintained an impeccable work record, never being disciplined nor reprimanded during this tenure. As you know, the city was recently audited by the IRS and penalized as a result of their audit. Part of their findings disclosed that the city had erred in the manner they employed and classified their employees and consultants. What I found more disturbing was that the city had never discovered what has come to my attention as basic accounting 101. As a result of the IRS findings, I was informed that my current standing as a salaried employee and a consultant couldn't persist. Approximately on January 8th, I met with both Mayor Lopez and Mr. Ventura to discuss my status as employee or consultant with the city. At that time, excuse me. At the conclusion of this meeting, it was agreed upon that I was to remain as a consultant and was to submit a contract for consultant services. Such contract was submitted on January 11th to Mr. Ventura and the mayor. On January 12th, Mr. Ventura instructed Mr. Quadra to draft a resolution to be placed on the February Commission agenda. On January 29th, the resolution was forwarded to the city clerk's office for inclusion of the February's agenda. Such item never reached this commission. I contacted the mayor, which I was told that we would need to meet again to reevaluate this item. After numerous failed attempts to meet with the mayor, I was delegated to meet with Mr. Ventura. In my meeting with him, I was informed on the basis of the city's agreement with the IRS, I had to be an employee of the city and nothing else. I questioned his interpretation, especially knowing that there are other consultants with similar conditions. Mr. Ventura then informed me that I would receive all benefits with the exception of a pension because my position wasn't entitled to it. This comment was very disturbing because I feel I'm being selectively discriminated. Why is it that all the other department heads were entitled to these benefits and not me? Why haven't I received these benefits in all the years I've been a salaried employee? Since then, I've met once more with Mr. Ventura and have requested to meet with the mayor numerous times, but to date, I have never received a response. The main reason I'm here tonight is because neither the consultants nor I have been paid. Our last payment was in December. As requested by Mayor Lopez and Mr. Ventura, we have all submitted our contracts, but have yet to receive a response. It also has come to my attention that the mayor is entertaining a consultant company to assume the responsibilities of the building department. I would hate to believe that failure for us being paid is a ploy for us to resign so that company could be brought to replace us. Even worse, it would be inconceivable to even fathom that it's being done to facilitate a favorable outcome on the open violations against the mayor. As you can imagine, this situation has caused a financial hardship and stress in our families, and our salaries are essential in order to survive. I stand here requesting answers on why neither consultants nor I have been paid and when we can expect payment.
Thank you, Mr. Lanza. This is unbelievable.
I've been, with all respect, President Vice Mayor, Mr. Diaz. I take this at heart. I grew up in the city. I've been here off and on over 18 years. I've dedicated everything to the city. When I used to work out of a desk in the on the second floor to where we at now, where we have a full functioning building department. I've seen the city grow. I've been through a bunch of commissioners. I think the only commissioner in front of me that has more tenure is Commissioner Duaso. I've seen all the mayors come and go, but I've been loyal, I've been faithful. There's never been an issue with me. And I find it very disturbing for someone that grew up, is homegrown, to be treated like this. I find it very offensive. And it's something, to me, I think it's a personal against me. And, with that in mind, I'm open to any questions or comments.
Through the chair,
Go ahead, Mayor.
I'd like to clarify some things, and then I'd like to ask Ralph to come forward, because Ralph did actually meet with Carlos. You are absolutely correct. We asked you to prepare a contract to come before the commission. When that contract was withdrawn, and you know very well why it was withdrawn, because one of the settlements with the IRS was that your salary, your position could not be as a 1099 employee, but rather a W-2 employee. When you were informed that you were going to be paid as a W-2 employee, you wished not to do it. When you met with Ralph subsequently after that, he told you that the only way that you continue being paid as a contractor employee is if you would submit a contract to run the full building department at that time, not yourself. The IRS auditor specifically said that what the city had been doing, paying you as a W-2 and a 1099 employee for years upon years upon years, was fraud, and it could not continue on that way. And you could not be paid as a 1099 employee. And you were communicated this by both Ralph and Ricardo.
Can I respond to that? Yes, I was communicated, but I think I reached out to the city attorney for an interpretation of why I had to be an employee, and I think I have an email that was sent. Excuse me. February 17th from the city attorney to the human resources that basically states that from what I was expressed by Mr. Ventura is that I had to be a city employee, which ironically I've been a city employee for the last 10, 15 years. So the incompetence of the finance department in the city to be doing something fraudulently for the last 10 to 15 years is really unbecoming to me, or it behooves me to think that a government agency would be defrauding the IRS. But besides that point, what I find is that I was told I had to be an employee, and that's not the case. I think in the interpretation, it differs in that.
Mr. President.
Go ahead.
What Director Lanza is referring to, I received an email from our HR manager. I believe in it, there was she was forwarding to me an email conversation in which I believe there were statements there basically talking about the decision from administration to go ahead and have Director Lanza be a W-2 employee. The question that was posed to me was basically, hey, the mayor or the administration is taking this action. And I believe Director Lanza was somewhat in disagreement with it, and she was asking me to basically chime in. My response was as follows. I said that if the mayor, if administration was basically making a decision to go ahead and have Director Lanza be a W-2 employee, that it was a legally sufficient action. Now, relative to the issue of the IRS settlement, the IRS settlement discussed not only Director Lanza, but it also mentioned the city attorney. It mentioned, I believe, the music coordinator in the senior center. It mentioned the inspectors. It listed several positions that, in their view, the way that they were treated without a contract per se, without an independent contract or agreement, that it was too ambiguous. And in the case of Director Lanza, he was basically treated in both capacities, where he was a W-2 employee for some purposes, but he also was a consultant. And as I recall, when we were discussing not only the settlement, but in at least the one meeting that I attended that included the IRS auditor, what I got from all of that was that the city needed to be consistent in the way he treated and he reported on those positions. Again, including the city attorney. For that reason, I submitted a written contract, basically showing that the city attorney it's not a W-2 employee of the city. Similarly, I believe that the city also hired or rehired the English teacher, and he did so utilizing an independent contractor agreement. And to that end, I basically mentioned, if we are going to go ahead and make some of those people that were listed in the settlement, and that if we're going to keep them as independent contractors or consultants, to basically utilize either that agreement, that independent contractor agreement that was drafted for the English teacher, or any other contract, but as long as it included certain provisions showing that individual or company or entity is an independent contractor, so that we don't run afoul of the issue that the IRS highlighted. I didn't see, honestly, any distinction between Director Lanza and all the other positions that were listed there. The issue was how the city was choosing to report those individuals. And if in fact we're going to be reporting that in that manner, that in the manner that we're doing so without independent contractors agreement and other issues, that they be reported as W-2 employees. To that end, like I said earlier on, if the administration wants to take that action and rather than enter into an independent agreement contract with Mr. Lanza or any other consultants, and basically report him as a W-2 employee, I don't see a problem with that action. I don't see a problem with action. I believe the option of independent contractor is also there, pursuant to the agreement.
I think also, in my meetings with Mr. Ventura, I expressed my favorableness of maintaining as a consultant. I think it served two purposes. One, I currently do all the inspections, even being a city employee in my personal vehicle. I have my personal phone that's being used to run after hours the building department and receive calls from contractors. And I've been doing this way for the last 15 years. And in addition to that, with the dire straits of the city financially, I felt that, once again, as being someone that grew up in the city and wanting to help the city, that would be more beneficial economically to them instead of having to pay for Social Security, pensions, and so on and so forth. The only thing I had asked was that you honor what the city had been doing for the last 5 years in terms of salary. I wasn't asking for more money. I wasn't asking for anything else. It was just to honor the verbal agreement or the verbal contract that was done over 5-6 years ago. And that's the only thing that has differed from what is here. Now, the building official doesn't, for clarification, I don't need the clerks. The city needs the clerks to run their department. The building official, his responsibility is to oversee his inspectors. Basically, that's it. And oversee the department. You have to have a licensed official. Okay? In addition to that position, I do plans review for the city. I do building inspections for the city. I do roofing inspections for the city. I do zoning review for the city. I'm the zoning director. I do zoning inspections for the city. I assist in the code enforcement department, which is not part of my delegations as a building official. But for clarification purposes, I can do all those things without the clerks. The city needs the clerks to run their department, to receive funds, and to do it that way. That's the way it's always been done in the city for many years. So what I find even more disturbing is I get an email one day that I'm a consultant. I get an email the next day to put me on a salary. I receive from the finance department a W-9 form to fill out. And all along, I've always been an employee of the city.
Carlos, we understand your frustration, and I think that under no circumstances the administration should deprive you from your salary when you are still operating and complying with all your responsibilities. And Mayor, this really is unacceptable. I don't think that under any circumstances you should deprive an employee that has been working for so long in the city. And who else is under the same circumstances?
Well, we have, there's...
Two other inspectors, they're in the same situation.
Recently, TJ Basing, which had been our plumbing chief for many years, retired. And I had reached out to Mr. Ventura via an email in which Mr. Basing basically gave me a week's notice. So I had to scramble to find somebody. We had somebody as a backup, which we brought in. On January 11th, I was given the approval. This gentleman's been working here since the beginning of the year and hasn't gotten paid. And he asked me, and I vouched, and I said I would, I gave him my word that I had received confirmation that he was approved to go forward under the same conditions as Mr. Basing. So we have him, we have our structural reviewer, Orlando Blanco, and we have Mr. Raul Piñon, which fills in with the excessive volume of inspections that we've been receiving.
So 4 employees.
And myself, yes, sir.
Go ahead, Commissioner Bergin.
Okay, of everything you said, as I was listening at the beginning, the two things I find disturbing are that, number one, from everything that's going on in the city, administratively, that some of the things we're not aware of, or we're not told or privy of, or I think that it makes sense, one of the things that you were saying, that it seems to be that they're using this tactic to try to squeeze you out and bring one of their friends or one of the people that, just like happened in other departments. And even worse, I think, if they're gonna consider you an employee, then why would you not pay an employee for 3 months? And I think that's the big issue. And the other gentlemen that are considered, I guess, employees,
Yeah, there,
inspectors have not been paid for 3 months.
there's an email from the finance director, basically stipulating that all the employees that were listed on the IRS audit were to be W-2 employees. So there's the emails here, and so it's a flip-flop back and forth.
Go ahead, Mr. Quadra.
Mr. President,
Go ahead, Quadra.
let me suggest the following. There are some things that are coming to light here that I guess have not been discussed in one way or another. If I may suggest, to allow myself and the administration to meet and not only discuss the IRS settlement, but also the status of the employees listed on the settlement, because that conversation has not taken place. It may prove to be a productive conversation, and you gotta let chips fall where they may. But apart from that, the reason why I'm making this suggestion is that, just like everything else, there may be unintended consequences if we try to solve that here and now. I think that it may prove to be a productive conversation we can bring back to the commission. I can bring back to the commission basically a report on this issue and a report on those employees listed in the settlement agreement. Again, that's just one suggestion I'm making to the commission, and there are legal ramifications as to why I'm making that suggestion. The commission is free to do whatever it needs to do. I'm just posing that as an option.
Mr. Quadra, the only concern I have with that is we're going on 3 months that I haven't gotten paid.
I understand that.
And I don't live off the air. I need to get paid. And I haven't abandoned my position. I faithfully go there every day. I serve it. I never come before you, but my consultants or the city's consultants, we don't live off air. That's one thing. If you do entertain that, there has to be. I beg of you that there's a deadline, and a quick one, because unless I need to survive.
Absolutely. Commissioner Beguignan has the floor.
Yeah.
Commissioner Yanim.
My question is this, what can we do for them to get paid? Because are gonna be on hold?
Can I say something?
Hold on, Ralph. Yes,
What
I was
solution?
very concerned, and I was gonna make that comment as well. While this goes up and down, so back and forth, they haven't been paid since December 31st. And I don't think that how economy is right now, and we know that we are all up to here, everyone is probably tight on their own budget. I think that is very unfair, Mayor Lopez, and I know you're trying to solve a problem with the IRS, and we are all, in favor of that. But these are another example of arbitrary decisions and unilateral process that nobody understands.
But this is
How
the-
could it
Diaz,
be,
hold on a
Raf? I have the floor. How could it be that a person, a professional, doesn't receive his salary for the last 3 months, whether it is by contract as a consultant or as a city employee? It just take an hour to do the paperwork and having him one way or the other, not to penalize them, just cutting them their salaries.
To the floor.
Go ahead.
First
Go ahead.
and foremost, it's not been 3
Hold
months.
on, you don't have the floor. Ralph have the floor.
Just very quickly, I did meet with Mr. Lanza, and the discussion is not exactly as Mr. Lanza portrayed it. He said, for example, that he was denied a pension. He was told he was not pensionable. That is true. I told him I was not pensionable. And he said, well, that shouldn't be the case. So I called Joanna. He left out this portion of the conversation. I called Joanna in front of him, and I said, does he get a pension? He said, yes. And I said, am I pensionable? And she said, yes. And I said, oh, I didn't know that. So that was a mistake on my part. But that was corrected in the conversation I had with Mr. Lanza with Joanna on the telephone. Now, as for the W-2 1099 issue and his payment, 2 or 3 weeks ago, whenever this was, I directed that he be made into a W-2 employee after the conversation he and I had. Why he has not been processed through the system, I don't know, but we were not informed that this was going to be the subject of tonight's conversation, so we were not prepared for it. But there is email in the city email servers from me to Joanna and to Ricardo directing that he be made a W-2 employee and processed for payment, retroactive to January 1, 2016. That has happened. There has been an intent on the part of this administration to ensure that he be paid. Has he not been paid? I'm finding out about this right now, but there was an intent and a directive on the part of this administration that he be paid as a W-2 employee. Now, excuse me?
No, it's
And that's in the email servers.
it is funny that the guy is without payment for 3 months, and you have addressed already the issue, and this has come to a boiling point in a very
There is in the city's email systems proof that this happened. I directed her to do this. Why it has not happened, I don't know, but I was not advised that it had not been happened, and that it had not happened. I don't believe the mayor was advised of that either. Now, as for the issue of the 1099 versus W-2 employee, Mr. Lanza is in an odd position because he is a professional who is using city employees and the city facilities for his purposes. The two most analogous, similar people that we have are Mr. Cuadra and Eric Gomez. The three of them are similar in that sense. However, Mr. Cuadra has an office outside the city. Mr. Cuadra does not operate within the city. He does not use city employees to advance his role. The only issue that the IRS auditor had was that the city attorney needed to be reduced to a contract. That has been remedied, I believe. The issue with Eric Gomez is different because Eric Gomez is here, but Eric Gomez provides an entire department. He comes with his own employees. I don't believe he uses city staff for anything. He gets the funds are cut to his company, and from there, all his employees are paid. So essentially, the entire department has been sublet or subcontracted to Eric Gomez's to Eric Gomez's company. What I told Mr. Lanza, which also he sort of alluded to but didn't lay out in detail, is that if he were interested, something similar to what has happened with Mr. Gomez could be affected with Mr. Lanza, and that would be that he would need to take over the entire department. The issue that the IRS auditor had is that he seems to be here and he seems to have employees, but the employees who answer to him are W-2 employees, but he is a 1099. That presents a gray area, and that is the crux of the issue. So with that, unless there are any questions, I'll resume my seat. Yes, sir.
Through the chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay, I think I find a couple of discrepancies in what you said. First of all, we have the money to pay the unbudgeted employees. Sorry, I got to bring it up again. But we don't have the money to pay the budget employees.
Actually, that's not the case because I directed that he be paid, number one.
Okay,
number
but
two,
wait.
there are no unbudgeted employees.
In your view, in my view, there are.
You're incorrect, but anyway,
Okay.
go on.
The second thing is that, I wrote this down because I knew I was going to get into. You know very well, Ralph, because the way you've operated since you've been the chief of staff you know exactly what's going on, and you know who's getting paid and who's not. So to say that you didn't know, and especially if you see it on the agenda, that there's going to be issues and questions about it, you know he's not being paid.
Are you calling me a liar?
No, I'm saying that if that's what you want to use your own words, that's fine, but I'm saying that you know that he has not been paid.
No, I don't. I take great umbrage at that. I think you're completely out of line.
Okay.
And quite frankly, the issue that was placed on the agenda tonight was discussion of the building and zoning. It wasn't discussion of Mr. Lanza, wasn't discussion of payment, wasn't discussion of contract,
Okay.
wasn't discussion of 1099 versus W-2 employees.
Okay. Then my next question is, how come it is that anybody that's contracted, you're saying cannot work with people that are employees of the city?
Look, I had my own office. I was working when I was city attorney.
Right.
I had, for half the time, I had an office, and I had staff, and I had employees, and I had rent payments and all that. I eventually ended up closing it down and operating from home for many years.
Right.
But I had my own computer.
Right.
I had my own paper. I paid for my gas, paid for my cell phone. All that's deducted on my statements going back forever. The IRS auditor said, sorry, not good enough, you're an employee. Even if you had a contract, you would be an employee. And this is what he said.
Right, but that's not my question.
I'm sorry, but that is the correct answer, but I'm sorry, what is the question?
The question is that you're telling me that Mr. Lanza cannot have a contract to be a director or have his consultant and then work with the clerks of the city.
I think that if he is being offered a position in the city where he is using city resources and directing city employees, the finding of the IRS, it's not my finding, the finding of the IRS is that he would constitute a W-2 employee. Perhaps, however, if we had a legal opinion to the contrary, then we would be inclined to change, or mayor might be inclined to change that position. However, I will say that a legal opinion to the contrary will not protect us if 5 years from now there's a finding that we violated the agreement with the IRS. There's a contract with the IRS, there's an agreement.
Right.
That says specifically that under the circumstances of Mr. Lanza, he be treated as a W-2 employee. That is an agreement that this commission agreed to, a representation to the IRS. I don't see how that can be changed.
But from the way I understand it, from what Mr. Quadra just said, is it's the same position as him, the same position as the music?
No, it's not. No, it's not, because Mr. Quadra is in a position, when that agreement was entered into, I was city attorney, not Mr. Quadra.
Right.
And at that time, I was operating from my home office, my second bedroom at home.
Right.
That is what the IRS looked at and said, no, you are an employee. Mr. Quadra has an office. Mr. Quadra, just having an office by itself makes a complete difference. And that's a conversation that I had. And I had this discussion with the IRS auditor. I said, no, this is incorrect. I paid for my taxes. I paid for my extra 7.5% self-employment tax. I paid for my supplies. I paid for everything. You're going to tell me that I'm an employee? It makes no sense, just because I'm operating a home business from my office at home. And the guy said, yes, if you had a lease office, as Mr. Quadra has now and I had for many years, that analysis would be different. Mr. Lanza, I understand Mr. Lanza's upset over this. I completely get it. But the fact is, there is an agreement that's in place with the IRS, and his circumstance is unique among the various professionals that are employed by the city. His circumstance is unique. Now, perhaps if Mr. Quadra wants everybody in a room in the next couple of days, we can all hash this out. But I will say that his circumstance, in my opinion, is unique. And since it has not changed from the time that the IRS agreement was entered into, the IRS agreement says that he should be treated as a W-2 employee, and that is what the city ought to do.
Okay. Then my only other request, if you could, Ralph,
Yes, sir.
because you're pretty good with it, if when you guys come to a resolution of this, if he's considered a W-2 employee, if we can pay him immediately,
Through the chair,
him and the other individuals that work.
we tried
Go ahead,
a
Mayor.
month ago.
Okay.
You know, we asked Joanna to process all the paperwork to start him as a W-2 employee. Carlos apparently spoke to Joanna and stopped the process.
No, for clarifications,
I haven't stopped any process. For clarification purposes, I followed up with 2 emails to you, Mr. Mayor, copying Mr. Ventura, to ask to sit down to discuss the item. So if somewhere along the line, like they're not in the server or for whatever reason, as Mr. Ralph says, they're there requesting for clarifications and to meet on these 2 items. That's where I never got a response from either one of you. In addition to that, I also sent an email regarding my consultants, your consultants, okay, to meet, and I even responded to your email wanting to meet regarding the consultant statuses based on the IRS. That email was sent to me on January 20th.
Correct.
Okay.
That according
So-
to IRS, they had to be
Yeah.
all employees, so I
And-
wanted to sit down with you and figure out how we
Yeah.
can
In
do all this.
clarification to what Mr. Ventura is saying regarding that I'm a unique, I go to that office to provide you a service as a city. Like Mr. Quadra comes to his office here, and if you want to consider this his office, his desk, he does the same. I do not need, I have my own office. I have my own office, I have my own firm. I come there to provide you a service to meet your residents and to address. I can take the plans home every day, and I don't need to show up in that office. And I can come here and do my inspections without having an office. That courtesy is offered to your residents because I think it's appropriate for them to have an office to meet, and when they want to discuss it, like all the other municipalities do that have consultants as building officials, and plans examiners, and reviewers and inspectors. This is not the only city that this occurs. The companies that do that, like CAP, which is probably one of the companies that is here before you, or before the mayor, which they have been for many years trying to get the city, I worked with them. I was their building official in 5 or 6 municipalities for them. I was their building official in Miami-Dade Community College. They do the same thing that I'm doing. So all you're replacing is one for the other. They don't provide building department services, the whole department. They bring inspectors in, like what we are doing. So there's no difference here. Now, if they want to paint it another picture, that's something else. But that's not the case. I worked with that company. I ran their departments for many years. And I know how they work, and I know how much they charge, and I know everything they do because I ran it for them. Okay? So, bearing all that aside, taking all that away, I have a responsibility to the people that I gave my word that they were going to be paid, which were the consultants that were authorized to come in to pay. There's an agreement, a long-standing agreement, a verbal agreement, which is a contract, that hasn't been fulfilled for a few months now. And I understand I'm a team player. I've always been a team player for the city. I've taken the bullet when I've had to. I've helped. I've done everything that I've needed to do in all the years. What I don't want tonight is the retribution or the retaliation for me coming before them and before you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, I've been here for many years. This is my city, and I take it at heart because I've given you all my devotion here for many, many years. I'm fair. I work with everybody. I may not always give you the answers that you want to hear, but I'm fair. And I think there a bunch of you can attribute to that.
Absolutely.
Through the chair. Through the chair.
Excuse me,
Yes,
I had the floor, and I was trying to clarify something, and Carlos interrupted me, and I allowed him to. What we have tried to do is comply, and Carlos is correct, partially correct, in that we had told him to prepare a contract, as everybody else did, because we thought that was going to suffice it. When we went back to the IRS settlement, it specifically laid out Carlos Lanza as that he could not continue a dual role or continue as a subcontractor, that as a building official, he had to be paid as a W-2 employee. And that's when the item was pulled off the agenda. It was never done in retribution, as you said, or to try to get a favorable outcome, as you said. And now,
But
pursuant to the
Mr. Mayor,
IRS...
I'm sorry, there have been 3 months without pay.
No, sir, they've been 2 months. And we've been trying to clarify this because the first month was when we were going to bring the item to the commission agenda in February, and it was pulled off. Then immediately after that was when we said that we were going to put him as a W-2 employee. Carl's chose, the only thing I can imagine, stuff like that, he chose not to do this because obviously because of the tax impact on this. But the IRS auditor, when he was in the office, when we met with him, and if Ricardo is here, he can clarify this, I don't see him in the audience at the moment, he specifically said the only reason that this was done to pay a W-2 and a 1099 employee was this was tax evasion on both sides. On Carlos Lanza's side, so that he wouldn't have to pay the taxes on the full, on the salary that he was getting 1099, and on the city side, because they weren't paying FICA on this employment. That he was saying there was this fraud on both sides, and you had to comply and make him a W-2 employee. Now, when you get bold and statements like that from IRS, and now we're being put in a position, if the counselor wishes to say, yes, the IRS settlement doesn't really mean that, and you can do this, and the commission wishes to approve a contract, by all means, it was approved by the commission. But when we followed the steps to try to make everything follow, we apparently, at the very beginning, we were trying to do it through contract. We pulled it and then did it by W-2 employee to try to correct this. That's when it paralyzed. In one of the subsequent conversations with Mr. Ventura, when Ralph spoke to Carlos, he did tell him, I said, Carlos, the way that I can see this moving forward with a contract as a contract for services is if you run the full building department, which I don't know the outcome because I know that Ralph did tell me he was going to speak to Carlos Lanza about this, but no, there was no outcome of it. And that would be one of the circumstances where the services could be entirely contracted, but not individually.
Through the chair, I want, because there is a comment made by the mayor, which is, to me, is very disturbing. At no point in time have I evaded taxes, defrauded the IRS, or has there been an intent for me to do that. I have paid all my taxes accordingly. I have reported all the income as a salaried employee and a consultant. The incompetence of the city's finance department is what's at problem here. Because for many years, they have been doing both. It's been them that have been defrauding the IRS. If we want to go a little bit further, which I think there's a few other laws that have been broken in terms of wages, okay, and in terms of discrimination, why I've never gotten full benefits, why I have been treated differently when all along, I've never had to punch in a clock anywhere. I was salaried. Because all the employees in the city that aren't salaried punch in. Okay, yeah. Okay, so there's a lot of issues which I don't think, but I do take personally the comment that I defrauded. No. If there's an incompetence here, it's on the city's behalf.
The comment was not by me, but it was by the IRS
Okay.
auditor.
But regardless, there's never been intent on my part. So I just want to make that very clear.
Thank you, Carlos.
I have questions to Carlos.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Please, Carlos, la covacha. La covacha.
Commissioner Duaso, I'd be more than glad to answer that question once we resolve this one, because I think this is more important, because I might not be here to answer that question. So I think it's more important that we resolve this one first.
Mr. Quadra.
I want to clear up a couple of things. First of all, I was not necessarily part of the conversations that took place between Mr. Ventura, Mr. Lanza, and whatever communications were made to the mayor. I was responding to an inquiry from the HR manager. But notice what I said before, and I'm going to go ahead and repeat it one more time. Both the mayor and Mr. Ventura alluded to both options, which is what I told you earlier, and which is what is the content of my email to the HR manager. And that is, you can go ahead and have Mr. Lanza designated as a W-2 employee. That is a lawful action. The other alternative that I mentioned in that email is that he could also basically enter into a contract with the city as a consultant. Mr. Ventura went into detail as to some of the necessary elements for that contractual relationship, and the mayor also did so. So at no point am I saying that there's anything contrary to that. My email said that the W-2, which was the question, that the W-2 employment of Mr. Lanza is not the only option. the contractual relationship as a consultant with the city is also an option, taking into account not only what the mayor mentioned, but all the details provided by Mr. Ventura. That's all I'm saying.
Well, what I find even more.
If you give that to me in writing tomorrow, that we can continue engaging Mr. Lanza as a W-2 and a
I'll
contract
be
employee?
happy to do it in writing.
Please.
It's on the record right now. My suggestion was for everybody to meet, to actually have the conversation, to actually see, Mr. Mayor, what your desire is, what your recommendation is for this commission. I'll be happy to do that.
If you draft that for me tomorrow and give it to me in writing, as we're saying that we're probably gonna have a meeting next week on Tuesday, then his contract can be back on Tuesday. So long as you provide it to me in writing that he can be hired as a W-2 employee and a contract employee. contract.
No, Mr.
necessarily
No,
what-
no, no,
That's not
no,
what he's saying.
no.
That's what you just
Either
said,
or.
that you
No.
can have,
No. That both are viable options. The W-2 employee option, as you
okay,
stated,
give that to me in writing, and we'll go that route.
it's already in writing. I'll be happy to forward you that.
Well,
email.
I don't have it, but yeah.
I'll be happy
Please
to
forward it
forward
to me
that.
tomorrow, and then we can put that contract
Now,
back, fast forward it.
with a contractual relationship, like I said, you alluded to some of those elements that would have to be met.
No, I didn't mention them. That was Ralph that mentioned them, not myself.
I mentioned Mr. Ventura, and you alluded to them as well when you said that you instructed
the whole
Mr. Ventura to have the conversation with Mr. Lanza.
No, the conversation was that if, I said, what I was talking about was, why don't you speak, Ralph, why don't you speak to Carlos and see if he wants to provide us services to run the full building department, and we pay his company, and then he in turn pays the inspectors.
That's what I'm referring to, Mr.
Correct, and then it would be one contract for services to be provided for his company, and then we would in turn pay the inspectors, because the same IRS settlement also said that the inspectors could not be paid as 1099 employees and had to be paid as W-2 employees.
Mr. Mayor, those are the actual elements of that contractual relationship that you mentioned and that Mr. Ventura mentioned, that I said under those circumstances, you could have a contract and you can meet your obligations under the IRS settlement agreement. We're saying the same thing.
So if I understand correctly, I know it's back in January 12th, Mr. Mayor, you had reached out to Mr. Ventura via an email, which you basically felt that these services could be continue as a 1099 subcontractor, in which Mr. Ventura also, his response, I believe you are correct, this will require legal opinion from general counsel. In regards to that, if I understand what you're saying here tonight, is that the only way that would work is if the whole services for the whole department would be provided, including.
In other words, you, as your company,
Correct.
your company will basically provide all the building department services, okay? Inclusive of inspectors. I don't know whether it is the intention of administration to also include clerks there, the ones that do the intake for the city.
This can be discussed tomorrow. If you have some time, we can
We
sit
can
down
do
and
that.
discuss
I'm
this.
trying to answer the question here. We can come up with the elements under which there could be a possibility of contractual relationship.
So with that in mind, it basically opens up the door for what we're trying, what the mayor is trying to do is bring up, because I assume that would have to be through an RFP. And at the same.
Carlos,
token-
before you start with your wild accusations, what the mayor's trying to do, before anything was done, because you are correct, I did speak to the people from CAP after I met them in Tallahassee 3 weeks ago. And this offer was actually offered to you before I met with the people from CAP in Tallahassee. So don't start saying what the mayor's trying to do, because you have no idea what the mayor's trying to do, because the mayor's trying to correct the situation, because since you don't want to be paid as a W-2 employee, the offer was offered to you to run the full building department first.
Excuse me, for clarifications. I've never said I said I prefer to stay as a 1099 consultant. If you want to pay me as a W-2, I still am a W-2 employee. So I'm assuming you have fired me, or what am I? Because I'm still a W-2 employee. I haven't gotten fired. So I still maintain. I offer to be a consultant, but I thought it was beneficial.
Carlos, don't you prefer to have this conversation tomorrow in my office than here in open forum?
I've been trying to, Mr. Mayor.
Carlos, all you have to do is call me.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm sorry that this item has taken so long, but it's been a long time without getting pay, and I think that, yes, you should go ahead and solve this problem tomorrow.
Through the chair?
And if not, we can always meet Carlos or the administration to give a proper solution.
Through the chair, I just want to make this clear. The final decision is gonna be that they're gonna be meeting tomorrow, correct?
Yes.
I just wanna make sure that I have it right. So tomorrow, actually, gonna be meeting, and the decision will be taken, it's gonna be a W-2, or it's gonna be a contract.
Let me say the following. I think that conversation could prove to be a very productive conversation. Next Tuesday, there is I believe, a special meeting that's going to be called. The mayor alluded to that earlier. And I think at that point, perhaps it will be beneficial to have an item on the agenda discussing the results or any recommendation or course of action that the mayor is going to undertake.
No, but on the same token, there is anything that it could be done, Mayor, to pay these employees?
We can pay him as a W-2 employee, which is what I asked to do a month ago.
Is that inclusive of the consultants, all the other ones? Because
Correct, that was
Yes.
what was told
Everyone
to
in
you.
W-2s,
W-2s.
with a
No,
W-2.
let them figure it out.
okay,
Well,
then
tomorrow, it's better that you conclude this conversation tomorrow.
I'll reach out to your office, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we move to item G. A resolution of the mayor and the city commission of the city of Sweetwater, Florida, urging Miami-Dade County to move forward with the relocation of the Miami-Dade County Youth Fair and Exposition to county-owned property adjacent to the Homestead Air Reserve Base Park in South Day, and allow the expansion of Florida International University onto the county's own property that is currently occupied by the fair, providing for transmittal and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Duaso and Commissioner Maronio, second by Commissioner Barreto and
If
Yanio.
I may, if I can have the floor. Obviously,
Before the vote, Mayor?
Obviously, there's going to be unanimous support, as one of our residents was previously stating that she's the president of the PBA at Sweetwater Elementary. There's been a lot of support that has been trying to raise, so the youth fair grounds can be moved, relocated to a new place, so that FIU can do a land swap deal to be able to expand on the services for the university, and thus be able to provide more services and more classrooms for students. So, I appreciate the unanimous support of the commission, and we will follow up tomorrow with a phone call to FIU.
Absolutely. Do I have, all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Item G pass unanimously,
Few minutes.
7-0. Go ahead, Commissioner Duaso.
Maybe, I don't know why. Maybe Duas is not here. But maybe Sweetwater City University. It's maybe.
So I believe that this is a great step to enlarge the FIU, and I want you to deliver our unified decision and support to President Rosenberg and all the administration,
Absolutely,
all the
they will be
elements
ecstatic
over
to
there.
know tomorrow.
Go ahead, young lady.
Oh, I'm so sorry. My name is Abigail Olson, and I'm a student at Florida International University, and I'm also an intern with the University City Transportation Management Association. And I was supposed to speak in favor of you passing this
In addition to-
resolution. So thank you for passing this resolution. I think it'll really, really benefit the students. There's a increasing demand for student housing, and so thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Abby.
Okay, we continue. Item H.
No, that was.
No, that was table, I'm sorry. Item I, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Sweetwater, Florida, declaring the Heckler & Koch shotgun to be surplus, authorizing retirement of the firearm, authorizing the donation of said Heckler & Koch shotgun, and providing an effective date.
Move.
Move.
Through the chair.
Move.
Second.
And second, moved by Commissioner Duazo, second by Commissioner Berguignan and Maronio. Open for discussion. Commissioner Suarez has the floor.
Mayor, I just have a question since I wasn't here before, as all of you, or most of you were. What is the meaning of this shotgun to former Chief of Police Fugeda? What is the meaning? It has to have a meaning for us to deliver this to him. What is it?
The shotgun was one of the old police department H&K shotguns that was in very poor shape. A couple of police officers, out of their own monies, sent it to get reblued. They sent it to get blue anodized on the side. They had his name etched on it and everything to be able to present it to him upon his retirement. There were some pictures that I had actually sent with the piece. Because I don't have the backup here, because I don't have the pictures. And the shotgun was supposed to be presented to retired Chief Fugeda upon his retirement, and it wasn't done. It was forgotten for the last 2 years. In the process of doing the inventory for all the firearms and everything downstairs, it popped up that the shotgun was still there. So I, bring this resolution to be able to do the presentment of this firearm, declaring it surplus, and to be able to present it to retired Chief Fugeda.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't know if you saw the pictures of all the work that was done to the shotgun, and it was at no cost to the city. The police officers donated their own money to be able to do it, and they had his name etched on the side.
Very good, very good.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item I pass 7-0. Item J, request to file a cause of actions for recovery of repairs costs to city right-of-way incurred due to the car accident. Daniel Briseno.
Mr. President, I prepared a demand letter to be sent to the insurance company. And the only reason why I presented this is in case we don't get a positive response from the insurance company, that if you by motion authorize me to file a lawsuit if necessary, so we can recoup the cost for the repairs of the damage incurred by that accident.
Move.
Second.
Okay, there is a motion by Commissioner Berguignan, second by Commissioner Moronio. All in favor say aye. Aye. For the city attorney to proceed with the proper procedures. This is a 7-0. We continue with the additions to the agenda. Item L, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Sweetwater, Florida, praising Centro Cultural Bolivariano Masis for their coordination of the first Carnival Bolivariano in the city of Sweetwater, and inviting Centro Cultural Boliviano Masis to hold the Carnaval Boliviano in the city of Sweetwater in 2016. Commissioner Berguignan.
Move.
Second.
Thank you. This is, if I can, through the chair.
Yes.
This is from the award that we gave them, a presentation that they had done their great cultural display that night. It was very nice, family-oriented, very nice display and costumes and everything. And if we can, we'd like to have them back. We've had a couple of different events like this that we'd like to have back and invite them. So thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. Are you gonna dance there?
Of course, no problem.
I'll match the dance. It
I'm
was
out.
a motion by Commissioner Moronio and second by Commissioner Duazo. All in favor say aye. Aye. Item L pass 7-0. And we move to item N, discussion on decorative light posts on 107 Avenue, FDOT widening. Mayor Lopez. M, like in money, was withdrawn.
Okay, back in 2013, the city paid, basically upfronted $137,940 for decorative light posts on 107th Avenue. The light posts themselves that were quoted at the time are not approved by DOT. The DOT had the light posts, again, comparable rated posts quoted, and it would cost the city $289,000. Let me see.
260 something, I think.
No, hold on. No, 280, no. Lewis bid contract, $207,000, sorry. $207,864. If the city wanted to continue forward with the decorative light posts, it would cost $69,924.60 additional for the city to pay to have decorative light posts. It would be my recommendation that the city opt out of the decorative light post and that regular standard light posts be installed by DOT, and they would be responsible for those. And then the $137,940 that we had already expended out of transportation impact fees be returned to the city. I know that our city clerk, in discussion about this today, mentioned that we should request these monies back plus interest rate, and I don't know if we're going to get it plus interest rate, but, you know, it's my recommendation to ask the commission that the $137,940 be refunded and that DOT proceed forward with the project with their standard lights.
Those light posts are extremely nice and beautiful, but
Not
I think
necessary.
that it's too much for our blood.
Yeah.
So I do agree on this particular issue, Mr. Mayor. We should take that money back and save the city a few
Perfect.
$1,000s.
You know, I made sure that
Several $100s.
all the email correspondence came back. I believe Eric is here, or there he is. He left. The contractor was forcing us into a decision last week on Tuesday. I told Eric that I was imagining that this was going to be the outcome, to retract it and go with standard light poles, but I didn't want to make the preemptive decision on behalf of the commission.
Do you have a contract?
How you doing? Oh, you got it. I was gonna just asking that. You're being paid.
For now, I guess. Yes. Well, I mean, those are the facts. I mean, you
Yes.
guys are the decision makers on that, so I don't think I have anything else to add.
Do we need to make a motion on
No, we just we all are in consensus with the
The
mayor.
mayor just takes it out? Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Just a
Go
motion
ahead.
to have the monies returned, $137,000, and for DOT to proceed forward. It was just really, I didn't want to draft it down to a resolution yet. I just wanted to make sure that that the commission had consensus on it, and the resolution can be drafted after the fact, and we can communicate this to DOT tomorrow morning.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Goodbye.
Well, I'm on the next item, but.
Nice to see you, Eric.
Thank you.
And he's got another item now.
Item O, a discussion of roadway easement and dedicated property at or near the intersection of Northwest 27th Street and 108th Avenue. Oh my God,
21st
this
Street.
is a long-lasting
Gracias.
This is
issue.
Eric. This is Eric's.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie.
This is like the Bermuda Triangle.
Pretty much.
No. I want to solve this. And before we proceed with this item, Ralph is a witness that this is an ongoing problem for many years, and we have been trying to solve it from even when Mayor Maronio was the mayor, and it's been very hard to get a consensus with all the owners surrounding this triangle. But I think, according to the drawings here that I've been seeing, that we see the light in the horizon. Mayor?
Let me give you a little bit of an introduction into this. Last year, I believe it was in June or July, don't really quote me on the date because I don't remember the date exactly. There was a realtor that approached the city and asked us if we were interested in buying what's known as Tract B here on this map, which is the diamond from the city. We explained to the realtor that there's been a street through that, which I believe creates what's called a dedicated easement. What would I ask me?
It's a prescriptive easement.
Prescriptive easement. It creates what's called a prescriptive easement, and so long as that the city was able to prove that this road has been on this property in excess, I believe, of 7 years,
And that the city has been maintaining.
and the city's been maintaining it, the city can file for prescriptive easement on the property, and it's almost like an eminent domain. Now, if done so, the street, there was an aerial that was provided, which from the property appraiser, that Eric pulled out, and it dates back to I think 1982
Or
or
91, we got at least 20 years.
at least 20 years
already.
of, that the road's been on the property and on it. So, and as you were saying, Commissioner Diaz, this has been going on forever and ever and ever and a day, and we need to take some type of action on it. One of the first remedies that I believe has to be done is that to ask the city attorney to start filing for a prescriptive easement on this property. Once this is done, what it does is it creates that we now own the road again, and the property owner will then own little parcels on the side. We need to cross the bridge with the first thing first, because then there's always the possibility, which was one of the avenues that Juan and I had discussed, which would almost be a land swap deal afterwards, because then we would have easement on the side that we can always start swap. But one of the first things that we need to start doing is filing for prescriptive easement, because we're having problems with the other owners on the side, and this is where Eric now can take in and.
Right, so basically, the first page, just to let you know, this diamond-shaped area, as you can see, it's a residential property. So basically what's happening is there's a road going right through it, and everybody's using it every day. So, imagine if you had your own property and somebody's just driving right through it. So that's basically what we're
Excuse me,
saying.
Eric or Guillermo, after how many years we have the right to own that road? After 6 years or?
Not own it, file for prescriptive easement.
You have the
have to
ability
be
to
filed
file
for
for
prescriptive.
prescriptive easement. And let me just chime in for just a moment. Back in July, when I started as city attorney, the request came in from administration to go ahead and prepare not only a resolution, but the documentation necessary to go ahead and file this prescriptive easement. That has been done. Just so you know, I think that there's some additional documents and information that's needed. But that is ready to go if ultimately that's the directive that's given. But all the work has been done already.
Right, I know that there are other issues, that's why Eric put this on.
Yeah, I mean, and basically, one, it would really make sense for this to happen, in my opinion, as a public works engineer for the city. Because if you look at the second page, what's happening is, if you can just take a second to look at the second page, you'll see that same diamond shape. Now what happens is this figure doesn't show the street going through it, but in reality, as you can see with the
There
aerial,
is
it does
one.
go through it. Now, if you look just adjacent on each corner of the diamond shape, you'll see some tracks numbered 22, 22, 22 all the way around. So, but if you look at those properties, basically those are, I believe, they're industrial properties, and they have a weird triangular shape. So all those owners really have a property that's almost like you can't really do anything with it, because it's almost like a non-conforming lot that they've come in to try to do something with the property, but they really can't, because with the setback issues and so forth, they can't build anything. So what happens is, they have these properties that they'll probably never really get to develop, and these are some of the properties I believe there's also they're trying to use them for parking storage, for trucks and so forth, and even then they can't even use it for that, because the way it's shaped, it's just very weird to have a diamond shape. You don't even have
They will have to make triangular vehicles, no?
something to that effect to make it work. So, and it even makes it difficult for me to give them like a permit to get access, because of the way they would have to approach their properties and so forth, it makes it very difficult. So, for the last, 10 years that I've been here, people have been trying to do something, and it's difficult for me to give them directive, because I don't know if we're going to go with the street through the middle and try to get this prescriptive easement, or if we're going to go and just keep the easement that we have. I didn't make copies, but there was a while back when we annexed, I don't know if you recall, there was a study done by Henry Idler, and he presented, what it could look like if we're just going to keep, the area with the drive, with the street through there, and he had put some landscaping. I mean, it's possible to hopefully get this, if we can get the prescriptive easement done, and get these adjacent owners to probably swap the land, it could, be something that would be to the benefit of everyone. I mean, the owners, and so forth, it would just, I think it would just benefit the city, and it also wouldn't be a nuisance even for traffic-wise, for flow of traffic, because right now, it's not conducive to residents.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Through the chair, I'm sorry. Whoever owns it doesn't want to sell it, period?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but they're asking for.
They
money
asked-
that-
Don't quote me to it, but they asked something like $5 million for the property or $3 million for the property, you know. If it was something reasonable, where they understood that the street's been on there for at least 20 years, and they understood the process that we're gonna go through a prescriptive easement anyway and get the easement, and I imagine if they had come back and said, you know, we understand this, we're in a situation, give us something, you know, I can understand, but when the sum, and Ralph's not here, he could probably remember, but it was something outrageous, something like $3, $4, $5 million, you know, it's something not even that you could possibly even fathom or contemplate.
How much they're asking for, Ralph?
It was like $3, $4, $5 million, right?
No, it was like $500,000.
Okay.
For that little piece of land.
Yeah.
And the circle is about the same. They're asking, well, they say no, I think the last time.
You know, something outrageous when, through legal proceedings, we're gonna be awarded the property anyway.
Yeah, the figure that we had during the summer with the Realtor was grossly excessive. But the figure with the circle property at the top, that was also very high as well, but they're actually in compliance and they're doing the property. They have, there's nothing really wrong with that property. The problem here is that the commission needs to make a choice. Do we take the land that goes with the easement and take the roads as they currently exist? Or do we, you know, essentially undo everything that's there and put in roads as a triangle or as a diamond all the way around? It's gonna cost a substantial amount of money, but those are the choices for the commission, as I understand them.
So, on this particular case, where you recommend, Mr. Quadra, is to go with a prescriptive,
The two options, Mr. President, is basically to go ahead and file for obtain the prescriptive easement and then see whether that gives us enough leverage to perhaps do something else, because then the road has to go through that property. Or basically honor the actual road layout that exists in the form of a diamond. So either, the commission can follow either option. Honestly, it's whatever directive you provide, we'll make it happen, but it's totally at the discretion of the commission.
recommendations, Mr. Mayor?
That what I was saying before, that we move forward with a prescriptive easement on the property. Once we do so, it's gonna create 4 even little, almost parcels on the end. That then those we can, then afterwards approach the property owner, ask them to dedicate those back to the city, or at that point in time, sell those parcels back to the city, which then in turn leaves all the current easement, which is really the street, and then those parcels could be individually sold. The city can then sell them individually to
each
each of
owner
the abutting
adjacent
property
to-
owners. That's the most viable option.
Okay, we don't have a resolution here. Do we, by motion, or instruct the mayor to go forward with a prescriptive easement?
For the most part, no, it's not really. It would still have to come back from one of the subsequent meetings. The prescriptive easement, as Squadron was saying, it's already been drafted. It's just passing by resolution.
The resolution and some of the needed documentation has already been drafted from back in July. There would have to be some of the aerials showing that, as well as some affidavits. Some.
Okay.
Some of the big aerials going back into the 90s.
Okay.
As well as some affidavits that I will have to prepare. But most of it is done, and I can get with the public
It's
works
just
director.
starting to add exhibits, correct? But for the most part, you told me that it was done.
All right, so let's move forward with that.
If you like, I think just for record purposes, if you want to entertain a motion to go ahead and direct administration to go ahead and seek that prescriptive easement, that would be in order, so that we can basically
Well,
take
it
that
has to
down.
come back by resolution anyway, so we can work on it and try to bring it on for the April agenda.
Okay, next
Yeah.
commission meeting, Mayor?
I don't think Guillermo will have it by then. You know, that's why I said probably April. You know, we'll get it to you guys as
We'll
quick
get
as
it to you
possible.
as soon as
But
everything's
prob-
clear.
Probably April, because you've got a little bit of research on that one. You know, that one, we're not gonna have it for next week.
Okay.
I'm
We
trying to
all
buy you,
agree,
I'm trying to buy you some time, 'cause I
commissioners,
know you're not gonna have it.
to go ahead with the prescriptive, how do you call it?
Prescriptive easement,
Prescriptive easement.
the first word's a little
That's nice.
tongue twister.
All right, so we move to item P.
Can I add just one thing real quick?
Go ahead, Eric.
The only thing I want to add is, because I know that the adjacent owners of the Diamond, there's a couple of them that have, they're trying to pull some permits to, let's say, park their vehicles or their trucks and so forth. And I just, what I'd like to do, if possible, and that's why I was waiting for this, is, and I don't know if I have to wait for the prescriptive easement, is that would allow me to tell them, listen, we're moving forward with trying to get the street to, go straight through the Diamond. Because the issue that I'm facing as Public Works is, even if they try to get now, let's say a driveway approach to these weird shaped properties, I'm the one responsible saying, hey, you gotta do your right-of-way improvements. And then I typically would say, you have to do a street and so forth, because this is not really developed yet. So,
Correct.
and I don't think it would be fair at this point to say, hey, go ahead and put a street in a diamond shape if we are gonna try to proceed with a street right through. So, I just wanted to, if we can go ahead and when I review these permits, I mean, we can probably have another discussion offline, but to say, hey, this is how we're gonna proceed, because I don't wanna have, these owners incur costs that doesn't make sense for what
Correct.
we're trying to do with this, with this area.
Yeah, this puts it on standby, because we
Yeah.
gotta see what's gonna happen and everything.
Okay.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, item P, discussion of bidding process for the sale of the properties. That's,
Right.
you wanna continue?
Most of those questions were answered at the beginning of the bidding thing. The only thing I'd like to ask Mr. Guadra is, with the surplus of the monies, because we saw this quite substantial, we're gonna, if it works out, with the surplus amount of money, what are the options that we have to do with that monies?
If you're referring to any surplus after the payment of the credit line, and I believe whatever is owed on the land.
encumbered part of the land.
Well, to the extent that that excess funding has not been budgeted, the commission then basically has total discretion to budget for that excess surplus and provide whatever spending authority needs to provide, whether it's a spending plan from the mayor for lack of a better term, or the commission providing the mayor a spending plan for those funds. Ultimately, you have to reconcile your budget. So saying whether you're gonna need some kind of budget amendment to basically be able to go ahead and take in that, reconcile your budget by taking in the surplus and spend it as you provide.
Done, Commissioner?
Yes, sir. I guess.
Mr. Mayor, I think that if we foresee with the sale of these properties, we're gonna have to be very mindful on how we spend those monies in your particular case as the administrator. And we would like that you bring some recommendations as how to spend those monies before the commission when everything goes
Correct.
finalized.
I had asked Ricardo Mendez, the finance director, to start preparing a stopgap budget for projections that were done. There are several of the places that where historical projections were taken into account, as well as, let's say, in ATS revenues, that ATS revenues are going to be far below what they are because we're going to be minus 4 of the cameras for half the year. So the finance department has prepared projections on where the shortfalls are going to be. We've had shortfalls on various things, parking revenues in front of City Hall, projections from ATS are going to be short, FPL franchise fees were short. Val, do you remember anything else? I know that we had them on the screen this afternoon. But That's going to be provided to you guys. Ricardo was preparing that already today.
Through the chair.
Go
Yes,
ahead,
sir.
man.
Instead of just the shortfalls, if you can actually give us the the items listed. I don't want his opinion.
Right.
I just want the items of, we owe this much for this, we owe this much for this. All the big items that we have, all of that, if we can just put that
Well,
on.
it's not even really what that's happened. It's every avenue, every one of the revenue streams that were projected. We have checked every single one of them, at least not, let me not say myself, but the finance department has to make sure that they've all been at par where they're supposed to be projected. If we've had any shortcomings on any of them, they will. Let's say, you know, and as much as little, let's say, as the park, you know, we had budgeted X amount of monies for after-school care. You know, we are going to be short what the finance department is figuring about $17,000 in after-school care on the parks, only because the public school systems offered after-school care this year for free. So that impacted the after-school care revenue from the parks. You know, so it's an itemized list, and Ricardo has prepared that today. There was one item that he had put on there that he had figured that on the ITB2, the sale of the parcel on 112th and 3rd, that we were going to be $30,000 short of what we had budgeted, but we are actually going to have a surplus
Right.
of 7 because we had budgeted 150 in exchange for 157. So I made him adjust that as well. That's the only amendment that I had to do it because he had budgeted that as well as a shortfall. But that is actually not going to be a shortfall. It's going to be revenue positive.
If you can give us a list though of all the items that are currently that we owe,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Because that way there's no issue of which budget we're using, which one we're going for. Hey, this is what we
Correct,
owe.
correct.
We can figure out what we-
That's going to be done, and
Okay.
in the, you know, this, at least, that will be provided to all you guys tomorrow. I'll have Ricardo make sure that he emails it tomorrow, and then as we move forward, you know, all other things will be sent to you as well, because I started asking as well also, all the other ones, let's say like the combination of the line of credit and the note on the property, I think it's about $14,000 or $15,000 a year, a month. So as well, when the parcel is sold, that also prevents a monthly expense of about $15,000. You know, so all those things have to be taken into account.
All right.
Thank you.
So we move to reports. Reports, police and code enforcement report is attached. I thought that the chief was here. I just have a question. Mayor or Manny, who are the two sergeants that we have on shift C? Why do we have two sergeants instead of just one?
Because when one is absent, the other one will take the place of the other one.
But they are not acting simultaneously?
No.
No? Okay. That was my question on that. Parks and Recreation reports is attached. Maintenance Department, it's a thick attachment here. City Attorney's report,
Nothing right now, Mr. Mayor. Mr.
Nothing?
President, nothing.
Mayor's report,
For the most part, what I want to make sure that everybody is aware, we received approximately $340,000 for drainage projects in CDBG funds. Last week, I was contacted by the state and told that there are 2 water projects that are tentatively approved in the state level, which amount to right about $800,000. If they're not removed by the governor in the succession of the session, you know, we should have probably about $1.2 million for drainage projects, which if Eric is still here, which he's not, I believe that the only drainage project still slated on the books right now is a small section of drainage 2B that was removed from the last project because we didn't have sufficient funding. So we,
108?
yeah,
The 108
correct, which is that section of 2B that was removed because we didn't have enough monies. So with the monies from the CDBG and the 2 drainage grants that right now are approved in Tallahassee, if those are not removed as pet projects by the governor, we should have sufficient monies to move forward and finalize that drainage project.
thank you, Mayor. Actually, yes, I was gonna speak about those issues too, and I think that we should congratulate and thanks Senator Anitere Flores and Carlos Trujillo because they were all together with
Instrumental.
Fausto and Manny Reyes, very instrumental on the
The
acquisition
only problem
of
is we
these,
can't count our chickens until they hatch, and, you know,
funding for-
we had these 2 funding projects last year, as you're
And
aware,
they-
and then they were vetoed
they
at the
killed
very
it.
end by the governor, so, you know,
All right.
we have semi-good news right now, but not 100%. We still have to sweat it out for about another 2 or 3 weeks.
Good.
May I have the floor?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay, I just want to report, I'm gonna say in Spanish because a lot of residents have been asking about this. Estoy trabajando con el Florida Power and Light, AT&T y Comcast para los poles que no han dejado de madera abandonados en esta ciudad, que parece que estamos como si algunos están apuntaleados, otros están inclinados. Se nos acerca el momento que vienen ahora los huracanes y nos puede caer en la casa cualquiera. En la cuadra mía hay uno que viene un huracán y le va a caer definitivamente una de las casas. Entonces, este mes me prometieron que para final de mes vamos a estar reunidos para ver qué conclusión se puede dar y cambiar el TNT si los cables son de ellos, que se conecten a los de concretos. Y de esa forma podemos tener algo más seguro en la ciudad. Así que en cuanto tengamos resultados este mes, sabremos dónde está. FPL, Armando está trabajando bien de cerca. Él me prometió que va a estudiar todos los postes de madera que son de Florida Power and Light para tomar una decisión, y los que no son, pues los hablaremos con AT&T en Comcast. Yo sé que muchos residentes me han preguntado lo mismo y estamos trabajando y no lo he dejado de la mano. Cuando tenga un resultado, pues se lo dejaré saber.
Commissioners, any other commissioner?
Yes.
Commissioner
I
Bergen?
just wanted to commend Miami-Dade County Commissioners Javier Soto, Senator, and Jose Pepe Diaz for helping to provide the funds for paving from on Flagler from 107th to 102nd.
Yes,
They're doing
Commissioner.
a nice job. Fixed it up pretty good. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
May I,
Go ahead, Commissioner Duazo.
Mr. Mayor, this night is beautiful for you. It was made and Ventura's made. He's happy. You know? Tonight is beautiful. Yeah. Listen, I have many complaints for the company collect garbage in the city. It's okay, it's impossible now. When they finish contract, I have 3 bills. 3 bills. This company no good. I have many complaints in the maintenance department. I have letter in my office at my house. Complain, many complaints. Sometimes it's heavy, it's not have crane, it's simple. Many garbage Sundays put outside cities. Past Monday, nothing, Tuesday, Wednesday, Mayor is terrible. You receive complaints.
To the chair. Well, sometimes.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. Sometimes, what happens is after the garbage collect, I saw it in my block and everywhere. The neighbors have more garbage. So I believe the citizens have to do something about it too. Is the garbage coming in Monday? They have to put it out on Sunday night. No in the afternoon,
Yeah.
Monday or Tuesday or whatever.
Okay.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Mayor, you have another truck in the city, you know? It's question to you. You have another truck in the city.
Yes, sir.
Sometime I
Hey.
talk to Jennifer or talk to Alan, this truck is gonna speak up. And this moment is impossible.
Yes, sir, Commissioner. Now, to explain to you what the situation's going on. When there are trash locations that are left behind on Mondays, the report is written to Waste Pro, and Waste Pro picks them up. The problem that was arising out of this was that then people were continuing to dump on Wednesday and Thursday. Then these were not being picked up, and these were actually being referred to code enforcement so they can go over there and notice the property and tell them that they are putting garbage out on the wrong day. If the city would continue to pick up garbage again on Wednesday and Thursday, all it's going to do is create a vicious cycle where nobody's ever going to comply because they're confused about the date. The date for the bulk waste pickup is on Monday and has to be Monday only. This was changed back to Monday during Diaz's tenure as mayor, and it's the most correct move. Having it on Wednesday really was a little bit more difficult because it made it more difficult for people to put out the bulk. Monday made a better data pickup. Now, there are still residents are putting bulk out on Wednesday. If they put it out on Wednesday, it's going to continue being out there. Code enforcement goes out and notifies them that they have to remove the garbage and put it inside and put it back out on the correct date. it will not, under no circumstances, be picked up by the city on a Wednesday. I know that there have been several people calling, and they've called Alan and asked them to pick it up on Wednesdays. It will not pick it up. If we continue picking up bulk for individuals that put it out on the wrong day, all we're doing is we're sending out a wrong message that continue the bad behavior, and we're going to continue being picked up. What they have been told is, pick up your bulk waste and put it back on Sunday, which is the correct day, so it can be picked up on Monday.
Through the chair.
May I, Mr. Mayor?
Deja que Eduardo
No,
termine.
va a
Termina,
opinar lo
termina,
mismo.
Eduardo.
I have advertised in this company when they start for first time, 2 times in the week. I have in my office 2 times in the week. Now 1 time. You know, I'm terrible. It's impossible nothing now. Or when they finish contract, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
No, sorry to me,
I need
no.
Three bills.
Don't apologize to me.
In my opinion, not good.
Don't apologize to me. I was not the one that selected this, even though that, yes, I was on the thing. It has nothing to do with the fact that I'm mayor at this time. This company was selected in the city over 5 or 6 years ago. This company's been picking up bulk waste for the city for approximately 8 years. So don't apologize to me. We have met with them, today at 10 o'clock in the morning, we met with them again. The meeting was originally scheduled for last week on Thursday, and we met with them again, and we discussed some of the bulk waste pickup issues. And today, at the end of the day, we drove around, and there were no locations where we found that bulk waste pickup was not picked up.
In the record, I'm going to say, when they finish this company, this contract, I need 3 bills for next company. 3 bills.
3 bids.
Big, no?
Bids.
Bids. 3.
Through the chair.
Okay,
Go
madam.
ahead,
Thank you. Go ahead.
I think what's happening also is that I don't think they have the right equipment to pick up the bulk on Mondays. So what happens is they end up calling the city guys, go out there with a truck and pick it up with the crane when it's too heavy. Yeah.
No, they were doing that before. When it was equipment when it was garbage that was a little heavier, they were subcontracting another company. They will come back and pick it up. What they've been doing now for a couple of months, they have 2 trucks that come in on Monday to pick up the bulk waste. One starts on one side of the city, the other one starts on the opposite side, and they crisscross in the middle. One picks up anything that's small that they can throw on the back of the truck. The other side, they're having a crane come by and pick it up. So they crisscross in the middle of the city and they make it. So if the crane comes by and sees that it's a pile that's small and can be picked up manually, they let the manual truck do it. And then and vice versa. So
Okay.
it's 2 trucks that crisscross the city with picking up bulk.
All right. It's just that what's happening is it's getting confusing for everybody. So they don't know that, and they see, hey, they didn't pick up my garbage, and they call. And the other problem that they're having is, I
Yes.
think that their call system, when people call, it's like non-existent. You gotta hit 1, hit
No,
2,
they don't
hit
take-
3,
they don't take
and then
What we've been trying to tell people is for everybody to run it through Yaima Constituent Services. Then Yaima's been they have a system that's called Track Easy, and then it monitors the amount of complaints. If you call in a complaint, you do it verbally, it doesn't get tracked, so you don't know how many complaints you're doing it. We try to run every single complaint through Yaima so that she makes sure to input into the Track Easy, because then monthly or weekly or at whatever point in time, you can run a report. Like if you wanted to know if we complain 3 weeks in a row that something, a level of service wasn't picked up at a location, that's how we can track it.
is that on TV? Can you put it on the TV? I don't have Comcast, so I don't. Is it on TV?
I don't know.
If you can put it on there,
I don't think so. No.
He's gonna be
I don't
busy.
know. I don't know, because we're waiting for them to develop most of the literature, but I don't think that any information
not
on
on
Track
TV.
Easy is on there yet.
Okay, if you can, though, it'll really help. Thank you.
Commissioner.
I'm sorry. Maybe you say, Duazo. No, let me. It's impossible. Any resident talk to you. This is impossible. Sometimes you have secretary and you have an assisting lawyer, ¿verdad? It's impossible to talk to you. You know why the resident talk or the commissioner talk to Duazo 15 years maintenance department, say talk to Duazo. Now in this moment.
Hey, Commissioner, you can make whatever statement you like about a resident talking to me. Indeed, my secretary is there, and she will attest to the fact that if a resident wishes to see me, so now if you want to make a bold statement and say that residents are impossible to talk to me, that's your statement, and obviously that's your opinion.
Okay, I wait for tomorrow your decision for secretary to the commissioner. Okay? You don't say nothing, why?
That's absolutely correct. If you wish to discuss it.
Secretary, nice secretary. You have one assistant. Commissioner or mayor. And they no have any commissioner in the county, no have secretary. And they have working for the city for 10 years. He's working for 7, he's not working for the other. Maybe tomorrow you have decision, please. Okay? No say nothing. Say why, man? This was so different another day, no? Mr. Mayor, it was so different another day. Pero a mi secretario,
No, it's a big difference, a 180 degree.
nos tienen cerrados, Mayor, usted a nosotros, no nos da secretaria.
Dale un chance,
Todas
vamos
las
allá,
ciudades, él va a considerarlo. Todas las ciudades, todos los comisionados tienen secretaria. El único que no tiene secretaria somos nosotros. Más sin embargo, usted tiene la dicha de tener una gran secretaria que responda a usted. Porque a veces pido cosas y no me las da. Y tiene un abogado muy inteligente allá atrás, que está con... Sí, entonces nosotros no tenemos secretaria abogado. En una ocasión yo hablé con usted me dio una contesta, yo la callé porque usted habló con ellos. Porque las cosas hay veces que suavizarlas. Pero yo espero en estos momentos que el alcalde mañana va a considerar y va a decir, ay, de regreso otra vez a los comisionados, para que estén tranquilos, para tranquilizar a Duazo. No, pero yo no. De ahora en adelante yo le garantizo a usted con mucho respeto que este Duazo va a ser siempre así. Va a ser siempre así. ¿Comprende?
Okay. Ojalá.
Y ojalá usted me compre mañana.
Ojalá.
Perfectamente. Y usted mañana me diga,
Bueno,
ahí está trabajando.
Ya, vamos.
Sesión.
Bueno, yo quería.
Quiero hablar.
Really, Chair.
Go ahead,
Give me the
Commissioner.
chance. I just want to bring up this situation publicly and in short because it's 10:30, but I didn't want to bypass it in this meeting. It is a situation of the animals poo in the linear park. I don't know if you walk through the linear park. I do, my wife does too. It's full of bird poo, dog poo. Take a look at the gazebo on 114th Avenue and 7th Terrace. The benches, you can't sit there. The city, according to the funds that are available, has to do something about that. I just want to leave it at that, but you can bring your opinion, your response.
Let me, at least to stay on that, I'm sure that Alan can get around there and clean them subsequently. The biggest problem that we're having, that now that you address that, is the fact that people are feeding the ducks. We have tried to contact, actually,
There is
Officer
many.
Saavedra, if he's still here. Officer Saavedra has tried to contact Fish and Wildlife to see if they can get some officers to come here and start enforcing it. We have an ordinance that says you can't feed these animals. We have an ordinance that says that if you walk your dog along Linear Park, you have to pick up the feces. The problem is really enforcing. And the enforcement on the dogs isn't really as bad as the ducks. The ducks are what's creating the really bad problem, and it's because everybody's feeding them. It is illegal to feed them, yet everybody's doing it. I'm not going to say everybody because it's not 100% of the city, but you have a lot of people. One of my neighbors is one of the ones that's guilty for feeding them, and I approached him. I told him, listen, this is illegal. You're feeding them. What you're doing is you're getting ducks to get out of their migratory pattern and get away from the canal and coming over here. Please stop doing this. It creates a health issue for everybody where the ducks are resting, where they're roosting, and their excrement as well. It's a big problem. We don't have the manpower to enforce it. We're asking help from the outside, but by the same token, if we get all our neighbors to start complying and we start telling everybody else to have a little bit of enforcement on it, we can probably cure it.
Can we move?
Several,
I'm sorry.
excuse me a second.
No.
Maybe 3 years ago or so, the former maintenance director, Antero, told me that they pick up all the dogs 1 or 2 days. They were those, I don't know, 100, some large amount, and they deliver them to the west, to a lake, and let them loose there. And we had no dogs for a while, but then people feed them with rice, with bread,
And they all come back.
and you know how nature works.
They all come
When
back.
the animal has food, they multiply and multiply. When the animal don't have food, they don't multiply. It's the balance of nature. So as long as they're being fed, they are pooing and they are having kids and more kids.
Okay, commissioners, I ask you to, I'm gonna be brief and quick. I receive a text that the city's water money is being confirmed. So we will have those monies guaranteed. And I do teach, I teach at a school, at a high school. And one of the parents is Francisco Cantero. He's a customer consultant for the governmental accounts. And he gave me this information to add it to Commissioner Yani's information about the light post. They have removed 54 poles already from those that have been reported. And there are still 57 remaining. So he told me to ask, to inform the community and the commission and the mayor that they are working on those complaints that have been accumulated since a while ago, from many years ago, and I think that they have taken it seriously now. They have removed 54, and there are still 57 remaining that they have to remove.
That's the same number that was remaining a couple of months ago when we met with them. Eric and I met with them a couple of months ago, and
With Cantero?
no, with Armando from FPL.
Oh, with Armando.
Yeah, we met with Armando from FPL because
Yes, I did.
the posts have to be removed. There's, and one of the remedies that we had actually recommended to Eric was that when the biggest problem is that, let's say when FPL pulls a blanket permit, they pull a blanket permit to put posts in the ground. If we can, so there's really no vehicle to be able to do this, but if we knew that they were going to pull a post, then we're going to require that once all the service is removed from that post and transferred to the new post, that they immediately remove this. We can't do it because the FPL applies for master permits of posts around the city. When we discussed it with Eric was see if they can pull like work orders afterwards to see if we find out when there's new poles rather than just see them as an eyesore at some point in time in the future. So we're trying to see if we can correct this issue, but we've been promised that those poles are going to come out of the ground 3 or 4 months ago, and
Good.
we still haven't seen anything.
Can we take them out and charge them for it?
Yeah, that'll be nice.
We don't have the equipment for it, and let's say it was something that could possibly cost us a couple of $1,000s, they'll do it for $100.
All right, we
All
move
we do
them
is we stay
to
persistent on it.
elderly service report. The special projects report is attached. Building and zoning. They need money. Finance report is attached. City clerk's report.
Nothing more to add.
Human resources report.
Well, if we could on the city clerk's report, apparently we had a higher than usual traffic on this weekend. So Amy was waiting. She's probably going to wait one more week to see if she starts going back to a 7-day service on the passports. So we had stopped that service a couple of months ago when it was slow, but at least for the public to know, and for the commissioners as well, for anybody that's going to be recommending, in a week or so we're going to start Sunday service on the passports again because now we're entering into our peak season.
Okay.
If I can answer the chair.
Go ahead.
Mayor, by the way, the floor in there might be a hazard. The tiles are all beat up. We talked about this a while ago, but we didn't have any money at all,
Right.
supposedly back then. So
Look at
maybe
tomorrow
now we
if
can
you
look
can.
at fixing the tiles in the passport office. They're messed up, and where they join the two buildings, the two buildings spaces. There's cement there, and there's some chipped up, and some just liability issues. What I'm worried about.
Check it tomorrow, see if it's something that can be easily fixed.
Okay. Item 14, new business, good of the order.
Move.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Commissioner
Second.
Duazo, second by Commissioner Suarez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at 10:37 p.m.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you, everyone.
I think